It's the final day of the Broker Apprentice, and one of the 6 candidates will today be crowned the 2014 champion. That decision ultimately lies with Zurich Personal Lines Managing Director Tim Holliday, who has interviewed them all individually about their experiences and learnings over the 4 tasks. In the boardroom, Tim is having a final discussion with his trusted aides, Emmanuel Kenning and Jonathan Swift, weighing up the various strengths of all the apprentices. This discussion will help him reach a decision as to the overall winner of the Training and Development Fund, the VIP Experience for 2, and the highly sought after title, Broker Apprentice Champion 2014.
Okay guys, we've had all the interviews, so what are your thoughts?
Well, we'll start with Natalie, working our way that way. Very consistent, very knowledgeable, very thorough, did incredibly well in I think all the tasks actually.
But she won all the tasks.
Yeah, so she's a very strong candidate. She's got lots of experience, probably the most experienced of the group. A few question marks around the edges, but yeah, certainly a solid candidate to begin with.
So Natalie, thanks for coming down. How have you found the apprentice experience?
It's a little bit different to what I anticipated it to be. I'm not quite sure what I thought it was going to be, so it's a bit of an awkward answer, I guess. It was a lot of work, I put a lot of effort into it, and hopefully it's come across that way.
Okay, but what have you learned from it?
I've learned to be more patient. I do think I'm quite an impatient person, and I'm used to kind of wanting things my way.
Yeah.
So I've learned to take other people's consideration and thoughts into what we're doing, and not just think about what I want and how I want to do it. Don't get me wrong, I've had strong opinions about things, and if I believe in them then I will fight tooth and nail to get them to the end, and you've probably seen that on previous ones.
I mean, in terms of the tasks, I believe you've been on the winning team every time.
Yeah.
A fantastic result, well done. So obviously a lot of strengths there. But what is your ambition? You talk about those are the sort of roles you aspire to. How do you see your career developing?
That's probably been a question that I've been asking myself really over the last 12, 18 months. I'm very privileged that I've got a client account with me, and one of the things that I really love about my job is the client and insurer interaction. There's been opportunities recently where to move my job into an operations more role and leave the clients behind, if you like. And it's something that I just don't see myself doing. I really do like the interaction between insurers and my clients, so I still want to be a broker, but I want to be the biggest and best broker that I can be, and I don't think I've quite reached that yet.
And how do you feel about people management?
In the past I've had a team work with me. It worked well. Some of the ideas that I did was embraced by the team, and maybe that's where I'll go. Maybe have more of an account and more people working under me, under my account. So more of a management of a portfolio segregated between teams beneath me. I guess that's where I see myself more as the future.
I mean, I guess my challenge would be, can you become a better broker just operating on your own? Or how do you get a team around you to provide the service your customers need?
Yeah, I think that that's the way forward. It's got to be more of an expansive team, because I am reaching a capacity where I can't be everything to everyone, but there is things that I can teach other people to bring them on in the future, to be mini-me's if you like, and dominate the world.
And would you only be happy if it was a team of mini Natalies?
I think I'm quite a strong character, so to work with me, that it has to be a like me. Yeah. I don't think that in a team where there's people that are bringing out, they want to do it their way, that's not going to sit with how I see my future going. It's got to be a team that's working.
So your way or the highway?
Well, not exactly. I think that I believe in what I do is a good way of doing it, and I feel that I can portray that to other people and they will believe that way. So I think that my service proposition is a way that people can adapt to, and it will be a way that they work in rather than my way. It'll just be something they adapt.
She certainly seemed to be very knowledgeable. I've absolutely no doubt she's great at what she does. I'm sure she's a great broker. My question mark over Natalie's, what does she want to do next? What's her ambition? Where's she going to go with it? She didn't seem keen on people management, and I just wonder, how's she going to take this forward?
So lots of positives, but yeah, you're right, good question there.
Just speaking of ambition then, Daniel, he came across as a very self-confident. He's obviously very ambitious. He's obviously very well respected within the AO organisation. He's on their kind of graduate programme, or started on the graduate programme. Again, another strong candidate. He seemed to come across very well in the task, particularly in the presentations that he had to do.
And which of the tasks has taken you most out of your comfort zone?
I think the task that took me most out of my comfort zone was probably the survey of the London property. I've got a sort of experience in maybe looking at property insurance and stuff, but in regards to the risk information and things like that, I wouldn't say I'm not suited to it, but I just haven't had any experience of it. So altogether, although it was the most uncomfortable, it was probably the most task that I learned the most from. So it was really enjoyable as well.
And I'm told by Jonathan Emmanuel that you're quite a confident young man as well.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of showing your nerves or when you're feeling out of your comfort zone?
I think I'm not afraid of showing nerves. I think it's good to show you're a little nervous, but for example, if you're presenting or something like that, it's important that the audience doesn't see that you're nervous. You can be the most nervous person given the presentation, but as long as I think you keep it calm and you deliver what you set out to do, I'm sure you'll do fine. So.
And when was the last time you asked for help?
I ask for help probably every day. There's people there with so much experience that it'd be stupid not to ask for help. Even though there's areas I think I could probably do that, it's good to sort of get other people's feedback. So I would say probably yesterday was the last time I asked for help. So yeah.
He's certainly well respected by his peers. They all seem to think he's the hot favourite. He's very personable, very young, very ambitious, very confident. I just wonder, is it too young? Has he had enough time to develop that depth of knowledge, or that depth really to take it forward? Is it a bit too early for him? Does that mean you're not a team player?
I definitely am a team player, but I think there's no harm in promoting yourself individually. To a certain extent, not selfishness, but you have to be a little bit selfish and look after your best interests. You can't work without a team behind you, but at the same time you want to boost your individual profile.
But they do say, you know, if you're good enough, you are old enough. So.
Well, staying on the Scottish theme, that moves us on to Veronica. Another one who is, I would actually say, perhaps had the greatest depth of knowledge. Natalie was strong. I think Veronica probably took it to another level. She managed situations really well. She's really good at stepping back, taking an overview and looking at a task and really solving the problem of what is in the heart of the task.
What's been the biggest learning for yourself to take back to the day job?
Presentation when we were at Birmingham was my idea of a challenge hill. Yeah. So actually dealing with the insurance for the car side, doing with schematics, telematics, that for me was the biggest learning curve. And obviously doing the worst part, which was the presentation. So coming out at the end of everything and the winning team was good there.
And is presentation something that you find a challenge?
Yeah, I kind of adapt to stutter halfway through if I get really nervous, but it worked out. So.
And is that the task where you felt most outside of your comfort zone?
Yes. It was dealing with the product, having to learn throughout the whole experience, but that product specifically wasn't something I was familiar with, and then to put on top of it the presentation to professionals that were at the top of their game as well, so it kind of added to the nerve factor.
And so I have to ask, on your form, after the question, who has been the biggest influence on your career and why, you put yourself.
Yeah.
So why are you here? It doesn't sound like you need any help.
No, I need plenty of help, but I can take advice, I can take guidance off everybody else, but ultimately it's only me that can make the choice. People can help me, give me the tools, but if I don't have 100%, they can't really impact me. So personally, it's only me I feel it could influence. I can take help and guidance off everybody else. Which
But that sounds quite a confident answer, and you just said you didn't feel you had the confidence of a Dan.
Presentation-wise, I'm not. I'm really wanting to learn. I don't want to be the same person just sitting in the office being quite shy and retiring. I do want to have the presence of Dan. I want to have the knowledge to go into the market and be as confident as he is.
She came across absolutely very knowledgeable and really focused as well in terms of the tasks and making sure the teams work towards a solution. She just seems like a bit of self-belief for me, and I wonder how we unlock that, perhaps.
Yeah, she seems to have the confidence. I think it's projecting that.
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
In terms of presentation interactions.
Well, changing tact, Max comes from a different environment. He comes from a personal lines broker in Bewiser. I think he's very bright, he's very, very thoughtful. I know he went to university, so he's probably a bit different to some of the other candidates, particularly the ones we've mentioned so far, who all, I think, left school and went into a job in insurance. Yeah, I think he's come across very well. I think he sometimes does step back and think about the task in hand.
In which of the tasks do you feel you'd be most outside your comfort zone?
It's between two. Sort of the risk assessment one was, I deal with personal lines. Yeah. So doing a commercial thing like that was really different to anything I've ever done before. So it was a lot of new experience. The e-broking one was very different as well, talking in front of 60 people from the industry. Never done anything like that. So it was an exciting one. I wouldn't say outside my comfort zone massively, but definitely new.
And how do you think your experience in personal lines would help you if you were to move into more of a commercial lines role?
I think it's the relationship you build with a client is the main thing. With a personal lines, it's obviously that it's one-to-one relationship. You're looking after one person, you have to meet their needs and demands. And I think that will translate well into commercial because you see them still as people. These aren't just big businesses that are there to be sort of sorted out as and when. They are still people at the end of the day, and you can deal with them like you would your personal lines customers.
On the application form, what would be your dream apprentice task and why? I would love to come up with my own graduate scheme. Now, you're on a graduate scheme, so what would you do differently?
I really love my graduate scheme. The main thing with it is that it's a very fluid experience, and there's a lot gets communicated from management about what different things you're going to be doing. Yeah. So I've ended up, for instance, in the IT department, which wasn't really something I'd ever expected I'd go into, but it's been a great learning experience. So I think I would maybe have a scheme where people could tailor what they wanted to do more, have really what they're interested in and let them do them as they wish to go ahead with.
He certainly came across very bright, very articulate. I just wonder, has he really thought what happens when he finishes his graduate programme, what happens next? He seemed very focused on the graduate part of the training, maybe he needs to think a bit more about his career beyond that as well.
Will, next chap that we have to turn to, he also has quite a lot of personal lines experience, also commercial lines to be fair. He came across very much to me as having great enthusiasm, would take on any challenge. One thing was perhaps around the listening skills and getting slightly tunnel vision on a point and maybe working a bit better. But an awful lot to commend him what he's achieved in the series.
So you've learnt about opportunities, but what have you actually learnt about yourself?
I've learnt that I'm quite dynamic. You know, I'm able to get on with people from different backgrounds really well. I found that during the last challenge, the difficulties of communicating via email was, you know, overcome quite successfully. And I found that, you know, overall I feel that I'm quite a good character when it comes to being able to work with. I'm quite amiable as a person.
Okay. I mean, the guys who follow the task, they tell me that you're very passionate, which is great, have very strong views, but maybe sometimes you get a bit locked into your vision of things. How do you feel about that as feedback?
I can certainly see that being the case. And one thing I've learned from sort of looking back at how things went is that when that is the case, I obviously need to learn to tone that down a bit perhaps and listen more to what other people have to say. And I think as the challenges have gone on, I certainly feel that I have done so and listened to what other people have had to say, especially during the final challenge. You know, I had some opinions, whereas the other two, you know, they had other opinions, and I went along with that a lot more easier than I have done in previous challenges. And I think that really worked much better.
So when did you last admit to someone that you got it wrong?
Yesterday, actually, yeah. So,
and the time before that, the day?
Well, you know, I mean, being wrong is something I don't like being, but you know, it's become apparent that when you are wrong, you need to admit to it and move on, really, and just sort of accept that that's what's happened. And the sooner you can accept it and move on, the better it's going to be for everyone involved, really.
So when you get back to the office after this experience, what are you going to do differently?
It's hard to say what I would do differently going back, because there is so much that I've learnt. It's a case of over the time, it sort of developed me as a person. I want to carry that forward. So, you know, when things aren't going the way they should be, you know, sort of take a step back, be more listening to other people's views, which I always felt I was, but, you know, looking back, perhaps I was too set on my own views, and that, you know, I need to perhaps still be set on my views if I feel they're right, but perhaps get my message across clearer.
Yeah, seemed very strong, full of energy, and actually it's interesting, you know, he's a bit of a U-turn around the CIA exams, which I hear he's sort of taken during the journey, so he can listen. I guess my question would be, does he do it enough, and does he really reflect on what he's being told?
So it's interesting there, because obviously going back to one of the earlier tasks, somebody he did have a bit of kind of a needle with was Josh, because obviously Josh is very passionate about the CII, very passionate about professionalism in the industry. And I think, again, that's come across in all the tasks that we've done. You know, he's always been at the forefront thinking, you know, what does this mean for the industry? What does this mean for professionalism? I think that's, you know, definitely one of his stronger points.
So what's your single biggest learning from the experience that you'll take back with you?
Being able to communicate effectively with us and get my point across in a team. and working within that team and being able to lead the team, but at the same time have the team involved with you. So essentially my ambition was always to become in a management position or a director position, and that's what you've got to do there. So you've got to involve your team, but at the same time be a difference in that team so that you stand out and people look up to you.
And have you got involved with any of the industry bodies like the CII?
Yeah, well, I still am an active member of the Bieber Committee in Manchester.
Excellent.
I've loved that from the start of that, about 9 months ago, and I've loved it, every minute of it. The people I've met and the experiences I've had, and we, just as at the minute, we're trying to promote the young members and what Bieber can actually do for young members. So me and another colleague on the actual committee, we're hugely passionate about that.
So if you do win, then you get the fund to spend on your own personal development. What are you going to spend it on?
I'd like to do something different with it. So I'd like to maybe invest it into a plan. So for like Bieber or the CII, and invest and ask them where they think the £2,000 would be best spent. Obviously, and incorporate myself, but I honestly think, because I get the CII exams paid for, I don't think I want that £2,000 development fund to go somewhere that'll benefit other people in the industry and other people outside the industry, and how we can promote that going forward. And obviously they get, Bieber and CII get money from membership, but obviously if we can devise, or I can devise a plan myself to go out and speak to other people and tell them about my experiences, and we can ultimately get the better candidates from the universities, schools, sixth forms coming into our industry, which will take us on to the next level.
I think the really amazing thing with Josh was that passion, but it was almost selfless. It was almost putting the industry before his own needs. I think the only thing with Josh is, can he turn that passion into communication? Can he pass on it to others, and can he get others involved with that? I mean, he's been involved with his Bieber, that was great to hear as well, so he's clearly absolutely dedicated to the industry and pushing forward.
Well, that's a pretty strong group of candidates you've got to choose from, Tim. Jonathan and I have given you our guidance. I think it's on you now to take some time and think about who you want to make the Broker Apprentice 2014.
Well, this is certainly going to be a tough decision, probably one of the hardest decisions I've taken for a long time. I guess I'm just going to need some time to myself to step away and have a think about it. But thanks for all your help anyway, getting this far.
With the tasks and interviews now over, Tim has a final few minutes to mull the advice of Emmanuel and Jonathan regarding the 6 candidates. The apprentices are called into the boardroom for the final time to learn their fate.
Thanks everyone. I have to say I've been really impressed by everyone I've met as part of this series. Your dedication, your passion and your professionalism really shines through. And it's also great to hear how much you've learned from the experience as well. But now we come down to it. I've had to make a decision. It's one of the toughest decisions I've had to make for a long time. It was very close, but for me there were 2 people who really stood out. And because it was so close, we've decided this year to have a runners-up prize. And that runners-up prize will be a package of personalised mentoring and development opportunities. And the runner-up is Veronica. So now we come to the winner. The winner of Broker Apprentice 2014 is Daniel. Personally, I've been really impressed by the talent and the passion of the people we've had. I think, for some pretty young people, new entrants to the industry, I think that puts us in really good stead going forwards. I think the contestants, I think they've learned from the breadth of experiences they've had. I think working as teams with equally talented people. but from different parts of the organisation, having to bring people together as a team to develop solutions. And as I say, they were all fantastic contestants. It was very close, but at the end, Daniel just edged it.
I think I expected it to be quite hard, to put you in an environment you weren't sort of used to, and I think that was correct. Definitely the survey and things like that made me think about things that I've never had to before. But I think we all done well as a group, and going away I think friends and colleagues will be quite happy for me, and hopefully they're as happy as me, so yeah, brilliant.
And who do you see as your main competitor in The Apprentice?
Max.
I think Daniel's got a lot.
Max.
I think Daniel's probably.
Max and Daniel.
Dan.
With Aon's Daniel Kinlan crowned the winner, the 6 contestants will now return to their day job, richer for their experience, on the Broker Apprentice 2014.